Release the Kraken!
Good afternoon, fellow game designers. This is Ron here, and we are going to be doing as promised. I'm going to be showing you how to set up a horizontal flying vehicle. In the previous few tutorials, we were dealing with a vertical vehicle. If I sound a little stuffy, I got a bit of a cold, so it happens. Anyway, to get our vehicle to fly in the direction that we would like, we need to do some adjustments to our current plane, because if we try to fly with this, it would just fly in the direction that it's currently built, right? So if I go here, actually I'll just jump back into Maya, and you can see that we exported the ship in this vertically facing position, facing the camera. But I want this to face down the x-axis here, so that it flies away from me. So here's my x-axis. I'm kind of lined up. If I bring up my widget, you can see I'm pointed down the x-axis. I just want to rotate. So I bring up my rotation tool, and it's either here or the E key. I'm just going to rotate that 90 degrees there. And I don't like the little bit of numbers at the end. I'm just going to be precise. Let's type in 90, or minus 90. And the rotational axis will matter based on position. I kind of think it's okay for my plane to rotate from the center-ish. I'm going to actually pull this back just a tad, right about there for my plane. Now you can kind of pick your own rotational axis. You can do it from the very back or whatever. On a plane, assuming I have my little ailerons or whatever on my wings, it would rotate based on the wing position more so than from back here. So whatever. That should do. I'm going to go ahead and re-export this. Export. Here's my SM ship, and I'll call this SM ship underscore horizontal. If I can spell. I think I can spell. Sometimes. Alright, going to go ahead and import. So go to import. I'm going to look for my ship. Where are you? Ship horizontal. Yes, yes, yes. Import. And there it is. Let's go up to my blueprints. I'm going to duplicate this. So I'm going to right click, duplicate. And I'll call this player. I'll just do horizontal. I'll go ahead and open up my horizontal player. Go to my viewport, select my ship, and I'm going to swap out my mesh for the new mesh. Hey, look at that. And I may change my camera position just a tad. Let's put this, I'll hit this little arrow here, and I'll go back down to 0. And I will pitch my camera. Oh, my camera is locked because I'm using pawn control rotation. So over here on pawn control, I'm going to go ahead and uncheck that. And that's going to allow me to move my camera up. Now if I check this again, it'll just shove my camera back down. So pawn control rotations allows me to rotate the camera with my mouse. But I'm actually not going to do that. I'm going to rotate my camera based on my WASD keys so that my plane rotates as I turn. So in this case, let's go ahead and hit compile. I'm going to jump into the event graph. And we're going to readjust some of this stuff. Now we have this event tick going that's going to adjust our velocity and physics and stuff. I'm going to go ahead and break this for now. And then we have turn right. I'm going to get rid of that because we're no longer using this particular turn right. And my thrust is going to work a little bit different. Instead of using my up vector, I'm going to use my forward vector. So I'm going to grab that. And I'm going to grab off of here and do forward vector. So get actor, forward vector. Oops, wrong one. Get actor, forward vector. There we go. So this way our ship will always fly forward. Let's see, this clamp velocity. I really don't like it being here. It's kind of a weird spot. I'm just going to go ahead and break that as well. So right now I should be able to move forward. And that is as is, scale on the mass. The thrust particle, let's go ahead and make sure that is where it should be. Viewport, engine thrust, that should still engine thrust. Go ahead and turn that on real quick. Auto activate. And there's my thrust. And I'm actually going to do something with my thrust, because you can see my thrust is angled down, because that's how we kind of programmed it. I'm going to take this, I'm just going to rotate 90 degrees, and there it is. It is kind of ginormous. Let me go ahead and move it. That might be way too thick to view as we fly. Okay, other things to kind of fix while we're here. We got to activate, deactivate. That should all be there. So for firing the laser, we'll do that in a minute. Let's come back to that. Camera controls. So we have the camera set up to work with the mouse, but I'm actually not going to use the camera for the mouse anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and just break that. So break and break. And I can actually just go ahead and delete these input axes for the cameras. So my camera controls for my pitch is going to be done using W and S, and my rotation is going to be left and right with the A and the D key. So let me go ahead and grab my turn. So turn is here. I'm going to go ahead and just move this, my yaw. I'm going to move that up to turn. And I'll plug that into here. And I'm going to plug that into there. I'm going to change my torque rate to something, I don't know. Let's try like 0.25. This doesn't need a large value. I'm going to change torque rate to rotation rate. Just because we no longer use torque. So, oh, and let's make sure, let's go ahead and grab our pawn. And make sure over here under pawn, we have, you can pull this out if you can't see it. We have our use controller rotation yaw. Go ahead and make sure we check that. That way when we rotate our camera, it also rotates our pawn with it. I'm going to compile. And there we go. A little bit too slow for my taste. I'm also going backwards. When I press D, I'm going to the left. When I press N, I'm going to the right. So we'll go ahead and fix that as well. So I've got the project settings. And once I open this up, go down to input. And if we open this up, you can see that our turn right, we have D and A. And D is set to negative, A is set to positive. It should really be the other way. A is to the left, and left should be negative. But we actually switched this for the other ship. So if we change this now, we're going to mess up the other ship's controls. So I'm just going to leave it and just do it here inside of the code. So I hit this pin here, and I'll just do a -1. And then I'll adjust this, maybe 0.35. This seems to be quick enough, and I can still fly. And since I'm turning with the camera, I'm not, I don't have any like additional momentum for the rotation, which is kind of nice. I'm gonna exit that. Let's adjust for our forward. Let me grab that thrust. I'll turn the thrust off. So auto activate, I'll turn that back off. And I want to be able to go up and down using the W and the S key. So go to project settings, go back to input, and under my thrust, I'm using spacebar, right? Let's go ahead and add a key. I want to call this move up. I'm going to use the W and the S key. So I'm going to type in W and then S. So add another key and then S. I'll close that down, grab the S key, and do a negative. And down here, I'm going to take this out. I'm going to get rid of camera controls because I'm no longer using that bubble. Let's move this down, spread this down, put this here. It only makes sense to put this under rotation. And then I want to get my move up. You really should name these where it makes sense. I have turn right and move up that kind of doesn't make sense, but we'll live with it. I'm just going to steal this. So Control W. So just select it, Control W. And I will put that in, put this in, that one there. And I'm going to change this. I'm actually going to delete that variable. I'll do a promote to variable. And I'll call this look up. Rate. Which is really what I should name this. I should name that look up. So look up rate, however fast, 0.1. And it does bug me. I'm going to change the name of that. It really does bug me. Consistency matters, you know. When you're working in a studio, if you name things wonky, you'll frustrate the people you're working with. So naming conventions matter. This is going to be look up. And this is going to be dead, so I'll just re-grab the button, look up. Plug it in, plug it in. And we want to inherit the pitch. So we have our pitch control here. Select our pawn, and then under here, use rotation pitch. Grab that. Compile. And now if I hit play, and I push up, I turn up. If I push down, I turn down. And I will fly in the direction of the camera. Now that's kind of inverted. Some people like it the other way. Like if I push up, I should probably look down. If I push down, look up. Easy enough, we can flip those. Again, we can do that in the input controls, or we can flip it here. Right here, I do have this -1 that I'm currently running off of that. I'm just going to remove the pin. Remove pin. Compile. Let's try it again. So now when I press W, that's pushing me down, and S pushes me up. Oh, that's awkward. I'm so much more used to doing this with the mouse. Okay, good enough. Let's fix our laser. I think if we fire our laser... Oh, it is firing in the correct direction. Good. So never mind, we don't have to fix the laser. But there is, whenever I fire the laser, you might notice sometimes the camera flickers. And that's due to our laser passing through us, and it's overlapping the camera. We can solve that in a few ways. One, we can set it to ignore the camera, or we can tell the camera to ignore the collisions. So we'll try one first and then the other. Let's go to the wherever we put that particular thing. Laser. I'm going to make a folder here for weapons. Add new folder. Call it weapons. I'm going to move this into the weapons folder. Move here. Okay. So in here we have our collision set up. I'll grab the collision. And then we have our custom. We have our visibility and camera set to block. We can actually set that to ignore and compile. So now we don't ever hit our camera, which is nice. Now let's pretend, since that worked, we don't have to do it the other way. But if you wanted to know how to do it the other way, let's go to player character here, I'm going to grab the spring arm, and if you wanted to turn the camera collision off, where it says camera collision, where it says do collision test, if you uncheck that, the camera will no longer adjust for if it hits stuff. Alright, and that'll about do it for this video. If you like what you've seen so far, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.